field of healthcare, I think it's sufficient right now because once again it's we don't want to bring that trap of dependency, right? The main aim, overall aim of the government and the NGOs is to just provide the basics so that they can survive and so that we don't encourage them to stay in the camp. But that doesn't mean to say that we leave them hanging and they're just surviving.
I'm sure, I mean, considering the areas in which these IDPs exist, water must be a huge factor. So are there limitations placed on how many times they're allowed to bathe?
Limitations on how many times they're allowed to bathe? No, there isn't.
So do you all have access to sufficient quantities of water to cater to all of these people?
I know that at Manic Farm they used a combination of both bowsers, water bowsers, as well as they had a pipeline that was getting water from a river.
I see.
As far as I know, they were very sufficient. They were sufficient.
Is there a specific amount of specific number of toilets allocated to each camp, each structure, each IDP?
The way that the allocation was basically one toilet per 50 IDPs.
I see.
And once again, when the camps were at their peak with hundreds of thousands of people, they weren't able to fully satisfy that need. But there were times there were lapses where the things like toilets and latrines were insufficient and there were long queues. But overall, most of the time there was sufficient provision of latrines and toilets and things like that.
See, Mr. Lord, in your opinion, is there any kind of improvement that can be made in terms of providing these basic requirements, such as food, clothing, shelter? Are there any improvements that you feel should be incorporated as well?
I feel this is what is being done now is sufficient, and once again, sounding like a broken record, but we just don't want to create that trap of dependency, because ideally we are just giving them what they need so that they can survive and then resettle,
right,
go back to their homes.
You said that you also provide software in terms of sociological and psychological help and all. So what exactly are the psychological or sociological problems that exist among IDPs?
The main thing obviously is that as a result of the war and maybe even the tsunami, that people are separated from their loved ones, and that creates immense trauma in them, and also sometimes because of the war they see things they shouldn't be seeing, especially with children,
right,
and
nightmares and
stuff like that. And main thing is trauma, I think, with them, because being separated from their loved ones, or even their loved ones being losing their lives because of the war.
So how exactly do you all deal with those issues? What kind of help is provided?
We do it on a case-by-case basis, like the cases that are really demanding, we provide individual counselors and things like that.
Psychologists and all?
Yeah, psychiatrists and stuff like that. ZOA, our NGO in particular, doesn't specialize in that, but there are other NGOs that do that.
It's interesting, and I fully understand what you said about how children are mostly affected by this. So what facilities exist to deal or to handle children?
For children, well, there are NGOs like Save the Children, and that are other NGOs that are focused on child development in such situations like this.
I think it would be appropriate for somebody to handle these issues.
Yeah, like I said, there are specialist organizations that handle this, that specialize in psychosociological care. But that is also limited, as in the effectiveness of that type of care is not 100%, and it's not, you don't get a full rehabilitation of these kids. At least at the camps. Maybe once they move out of the camps, they could get a more wholesome. Yeah.
And that beautifully brings me on to the whole idea of security among these IDPs. Are these IDP camps secured from infiltration from outside?
When you say infiltration, do you mean like paramilitary?
Yes, in terms of paramilitary forces.
Yeah, there is sufficient There is a strong perimeter that is set up by the army as well as within the camps.
So apart from child abuse, is there any evidence of IDPs being abused, harassed or traumatized by, let's say, outsiders or within the camp itself?
Within the camp there are such issues like sociological issues where it's like for example, these places are extremely congested.
Right.
And people get very insecure because there's almost no privacy at all.
Right.
And sometimes things break out.
Right.
Yeah, there are issues like that.
So when you say things break out, there are instances of sexual abuse as well.
Yes, there are instances of sexual abuse.
Are there signs of any domestic violence amongst
Definitely. As like I said, as a cause of inadequate space, or even I think the most common thing is alcoholism.
So do you believe that the security prevalent within these camps is sufficient? Do you believe more can be done?
I think more can be done and they can provide a little stronger security. The more. As far as outsiders and some sort of infiltration, the security provided for that kind of thing is sufficient. But within the camps, maybe something like a police force to make sure that there is no
like a specialized task force within the camp itself.
Not really a task force, more like just I don't know, maybe it would be ideal to have some sort of police or something just to make sure that stuff like the domestic violence, which is very prevalent in these camps.
You said that you don't want IDPs to get fixed onto these camps and you want them to be resettled, to be relocated. So what difficulties are faced by IDPs in returning to their original places of residence?
Well, you have to remember that they're IDPs because most of them are because of the war, and the war has left their homes in complete ruin.
Right.
Basically their houses would be just rubble. There is no infrastructure in their homes anymore. The war has just ravaged their entire area, and there's things like education, proper road networks, electricity, water, absolutely nothing. So it's only natural for them to fear what life will be like when they return.
So that would be the cause to their reluctance to return.
But most of them are actually eager to return, strange enough, because they want to get on with their lives and
get back to normal.
Yeah.
So do you think landmines are an impediment to their return?
Definitely.
So there are procedures being carried out to clear these areas?
Yeah, there are procedures, but it's not an easy task, and it's definitely not something that can happen.
It must be very slow.
Yeah, very time consuming.
Do IDPs consider lack of security in the north an impediment to their return?
Yeah, like sometimes the homes that or the places where IDPs that originally live are very remote areas, and when there's no community around you, it becomes a very dangerous place to live, because you just when you're alone, it's understandable that they will fear going back.
Are IDPs mentally conditioned to return?
Well, like I said, most of them are eager to return, and there is no need for them to be mentally conditioned to return. And also international, the NGOs and UN and government and all encourage them to return to their homes. As in, there is not a forceful push or anything, but like we encourage them to be independent, and that in the end that is the goal, so that they can get back on their feet.
Right. Another thing I was wondering was, do you believe that there is sufficient procedures to ensure rehabilitation of these IDPs?
Sufficient rehabilitation in the
sense that are they like you said, they've gone through traumatic, stressful experiences. So are there mechanisms in place to help them get over these problems and thereby condition them to return and continue with their normal lives?
Yeah, like I said, in the camps you have the specialist NGOs and government also employs, psychosocial care.
Right.
But that is mainly just for them to, to get closure over things like, or just to help them deal with the trauma that they have,
right,
being separated from their loved ones, or what they have seen in the war and things like that. But there is no, I guess that in itself is a mental condition for them to return to their homes so that they can get over the things.